Hello! Today, thank you for joining me. We're going to be making the market tote bag, and I've got two fabrics for this one. This one is a heavier weight cotton fabric. It's a home decor, so if you want to make a lightweight bag you could do it with a quilting fabric, but to make a really hard wearing usable bag you need something that's a little more hard wearing, so I've gone for the thicker home decor fabric there. And then I find that my bags tend to go at the bottom where all the corners of the boxes and things poke through, and that's where they go first. So what I've decided for this one is to add this product at the bottom. I suppose you might call it like a faux leather. It's actually a vinyl. This one's an upholstery vinyl, and I got this in my local fabric shop too. And this one is going to form the bottom of the bag. So our first step, assuming these are our side panels, we've cut them out according to the measurements I've given you, and there's a link in the under the video in the post for those measurements. And this will be the top, this will be the bottom of the bag, and we want to put those face together. So line up the bottom edge just here. Now when working with this kind of material, if you put a pin through it will leave a hole. So I'm just going to use these little clips. These are Clover Wonder clips. You can use these or little pegs, even paper clips, or I see people using binder clips as well. So our first seam will be to attach here to here, and we're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way down from one side to the other. So our first seam is sewn and the vinyl is attached to the bottom of the fabric, but we want to do a little bit more on this seam. For one, we want to enclose the raw edge of this fabric because it might fray. Plus we also, because we might be carrying heavy things, we want to make this bag as sturdy as possible, so we're going to double sew the seams. So with this one, if you just open out a little, see where the fabric is, and you're going to fold the fabric just in half back on itself and just press it down with your finger. It should crease reasonably easily. So I'm going to go all the way along this seam and just press the fabric down in half, and then I will press the vinyl back up over the top, and I'll take it back to the sewing machine and sew a seam close to the edge of the vinyl, and as I do so it will double sew the seam. It will sew a line of stitching on the outside, and it will also enclose this fold over part of the hem just here to protect the raw edge of the fabric. So I'll do that and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. So my seam is now sewn. This is what it looks like from the outside and from the inside with that raw edge enclosed, and you need to do the same for the other panel as well, and then you'll have two matching side panels for your bag. So now it's time to sew the side seams on our bag. Now normally when you make a bag you would probably put a lining inside, and you would sew everything inside out, put in the lining and then turn it. This bag's going to be unlined, and it also may have a heavy load, so we want to make sure we're going to maybe make some robust seams on the side as well. So we're going to start off by double sewing the seams. Therefore we're going to, instead of having the fabric right sides together, we're going to start with the fabric wrong sides together and the right sides on the outside. So put the two facing, match up the side seams just here so that these match evenly, and the same on the other side. Remember about pinning, so don't pin through the vinyl unless you're going to do it within the seam allowance itself, and then sew a 1/2 inch seam down both of your side seams. So our next step is to reduce these side seams in half. So where we've sewn 1/2 inch seam, that was just really to make it easy to sew. Now we're going to cut them in half. So use a ruler and a rotary tool, or just your scissors, and cut your seam allowance top and bottom down in half. Now with the sides trimmed, it's time to turn our bag inside out. And we're going to sew these side seams again. So flatten everything out nicely, and you could probably take this now to your ironing board. Be careful with the vinyl part, but you could just take the fabric part to the ironing board, press out the seam so that it's nice and flat, and we're going to sew down these side seams again. So do that on either side. Open out your vinyl so the edges are pressed out, and you probably want to use your clips again to hold them in place, and take a little bit of time with this so that you get a nice result when you sew the seam. And once you have everything pressed and smooth, evened out, and you've done the same with the vinyl at the bottom on both sides, then you're going to sew another side seam, and this time same again, top to bottom, it will be another 1/2 inch on either side. So my double sewn side seams are now done, so that's nice and strong. Now we need to concentrate on the bottom of the bag, and we're going to sew with a 1/2 inch seam all the way across the bottom, and then just inside the line of stitches I'm going to sew another one. So I'm not going to do anything with fancy folding at the bottom, just 2 lines of stitches will be sufficient. So the bottom of the bag is double stitch for strength, and now we need to give the bag its flat bottom and its volume. So we need to make a boxed corner. Don't worry about these threads, we're going to cut those off in a minute. So if you pop your hand down inside the bag, right till you get to the corner, and open it out like this. So what you want to do is on the bottom, press your seam allowances to one side. On the side panel here, press them to the other, and you should be able to feel under your thumb just here when the 2 seam allowances come together. And to get a nice neat finish, ideally you want to match that bottom seam with the side seam on the corner of the bag. I'm just clipping that in place. Now I know that I've got my side seams meeting the bottom seam where I would like, and we're going to give the bag a 3-inch box across the bottom. So using my little ruler, I'm just going to put the 1.5 inch mark on my ruler on that seam line, and then I get the point here and here, so I get a 3-inch line, and I'm just going to mark that with my pen. Doesn't need to be 100% super accurate. There we go. And now if I take this to the machine, I'm going to sew all the way along this line from one side to the other, just through these layers. Now obviously once you get to this point it's going to be quite thick, so take it nice and slowly, and if your machine needs a little bit of help, you can turn the hand wheel manually and sew slowly over this very thick point here in order to box the corners. I've got this one ready as well, so I'm now going to go and sew both of those. So both of my corners are now sewn, and because we double stitched the other seams, I've double stitched the corner too. So I did it through this first line, then also through this second line, and now I need to just trim off the extra. And actually I was surprised, my machine went through these layers really well. The vinyl's actually quite soft, and the machine had no trouble with it. You can see the same when I'm cutting, it easily cuts through all those layers. Okay, so that's the corners of the bag now done, and it's time for us to turn it out and have a look, check that we're happy. So the bag's turned out, and you can see the box in the bottom of the bag, which now gives it its volume, just here. And because it's vinyl, it already has quite a lot of stability, you don't need to add anything else to it. It already looks very nice, and I like the way it's got this transition between the fabric and the vinyl. It's going to be really strong at the bottom. However, the top is not the same. My fabric's already starting to fray a lot around the top, so we need to take care of the top part now. And we're going to double stitch. So the first thing to do is just turn over a small allowance, maybe 1/4 or 1/3 of an inch, something like that, around the top, and take it to the ironing board and just press, and then turn over again. So once you have the first one, then press, turn over and press a second time, maybe do 1/2 inch on the second one and press, and then your raw edge will be enclosed and you get a nice neat finish. So I'm going to take mine to the ironing board now and just press around the top. So my pressing's now done, and as you can see it makes a nice neat edge. I've popped a few pins in just around the top because now it's time for me to take it back to the machine and sew. And the same way we've been sewing everything with double seams, I'm going to sew close to the top seam and then top fold, and then also along here close to the bottom fold, and I'll do that all the way around the bag, so I'll sew all the way around twice. So the double stitch seam around the top is now completed, Looks nice inside and out. And our bag is nearly finished. All we need to do is make some handles. And we're going to make some very nice, comfortable and strong handles, because I know if you're carrying a heavy bag, sometimes the handles can cut in. But if we make them with the vinyl fabric, we can make them with a fabric trim, and it's going to look nice, but at the same time the vinyl is going to make the handles nice and comfortable. So turn your bag the right side out, because that is nearly finished, and now we'll start on the handles. So now we are going to create some truly awesome handles for this bag. We need our strip of vinyl and our strip of fabric. And the first thing to do is, with the strip of fabric, just to take it over to the ironing board and press the raw edges on the back in towards the middle. So this is the narrower strap, and once we've folded it nicely, you get a nice crisp finished edge on the outside. We need to do a little bit of preparation for our vinyl strip as well. I've drawn a line on the back down through the middle, and these strips here, these are a product called Wonder Tape. They're a double-sided tape which is especially designed for use in sewing, and you can sew right through it. So it comes with sticky on one side, so I've already put that on, and then if I peel off this strip, this is now sticky as well, and it means that I can now fold this down, and I will fold each side in towards the centre and match it up with that line, and the Wonder Tape is going to hold it in place without the need for me to use any pins. Okay, one side, and I'll repeat the same on the other. Once I've done all the way down, the strap will look like this on the back and like this on the front, so you'll have a nice crisp even strap. And then our next step is to add on the fabric. So with these edges butted up together on the vinyl, I'm now going to take my piece of fabric, keep the edges tucked in, and pop that over the top. And obviously I want to try and get it even if possible, so there's the same amount of vinyl showing on either side. And I'm just going to pop my little clips in place and hold the fabric down right through the centre of this strap like this, and I'll follow that all the way to the end. And then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, same as we did before. I'll stitch along the edge of the fold of the fabric here and here, and if I need to I can just adjust slightly as I go, and it will make a nice neat strap for us. And now my straps are complete. It really wasn't that difficult. If you look on the back, you've got the nice lines of stitching and a smooth finish there, and on the front the lines of stitching and the fabric on the top. So it carries through to both the lower and the bottom part of the bag, and they're going to be really strong, and they're kind of padded and comfortable to use on the bag too. So the next step is for us to attach them. So to place the handles of the bag, I've started with some marks on the inside. I've measured 4 inches from each of the side seams and made a mark on the inside. And we now need to draw a box, which is 1 inch square, centred around this 4-inch mark. So I'm going to put that on my 1/2 inch mark just there. And there's my 1 inch box, and the same on this side. Okay, so now I've got my 2 marks on the inside, and these are going to be where my straps are going to go. So the strap is about 1 inch wide, and it's going to fit in that box. And to make it even, I obviously want them both to be the same, so it's no good putting one here and one there. They both need to be the same, which is why we have this box. So I've got the 1 inch box just there, and it's going to go with the fabric sides outwards and be sewn into this box. And the best way to sew them into place is going to be to actually just hold it while you sew. So you've got the lines to help you keep everything squared up. And if you take over to the sewing machine now, and where you have the lines of stitches here on the back of the vinyl, you can use those as a guide. Follow up to the top of the seam just here, across, down, and make a box, and that will secure your handle in place. Make sure the handle isn't twisted. Do the same here. Fit the handle within the 1-inch box and sew a box around the outside. So this is what it looks like when it's sewn. I need to trim those ends a little bit, but I've just sewn a rectangle on the inside just here. Made sure I've done up to the top, and I've actually double stitched this top row. And this is what it looks like from the outside. So repeat that now with your other handle, and then the bag will be completed. So that's it, our market tote is now completed. Thank you very much for following along. I hope you've enjoyed sewing with me today and creating this awesome bag. Thank you very much.